Charles, thanks. The introduction was a couple of minutes ago, but thank you. I do want to say something on a personal note that I think all of us, and I'm looking here at the audience, we see colleagues, we see competitors, we see brands, we see influencers. And I think in the last, I would say, 24 hours or a little bit more, we all felt adrenaline of meeting each other, I think, for the first time. For me, for 2 years and 4 months, I haven't gone for a business trip, so it's the first time that I'm meeting. I believe that a lot of us are in the same position, and it's aside of talking about the business, about innovations, about sustainability, about CO2, it's just meeting each other and understanding, hey, we're in the same trade. We have things which are shared among us. I even believe we have the same focuses of what we're doing. Each one wants to do a better business, to have better prices, to come with new products, better performance, etc. But at the end, at least in the last 2 years, and I think down the road, we are all looking at finding ways where we, as an industry, and in this presentation, I will try to speak a little bit from the industry point of view, how we can reduce the impact of what we do in the textile, in the garment, in the fashion world, because we want to feel better, not for the planet, for ourselves. We want to know that we're in an industry that takes responsibility into a very high place of thinking, of actions, and of decision making. So I need to take my mouse, just a minute, and flip the pages. So I'm representing Nilit. Nilit is a corporate based in Israel. We have 4 facilities in the Americas, North and South, in Israel, of course, and in Asia. We're backward integrated. That means we do our own polymer, and of course the spinning and textilizing. But the important is that from a filament point of view of Nylon 6/6, we're the largest one in the globe. We're serving numerous customers by the region. You can see here the numbers of the amount of filament and yarns that we're supplying to the market. And this goes with a big responsibility on our shoulders, because if we're big, if we are the leaders, others are looking at us. So we have to think not just on ourselves, but also on the industry. And this is what we're trying to do in recent years. And when we're thinking of the new innovative and the new solutions that we want to bring to the market. When we're looking at the fashion cycle and the apparel or garment cycle, we see here that there's a couple of elements that we as I would say an upstream or a spinner or raw material in some cases, we can affect 2 places. We can affect the design, because our design at the end goes to the consumer. We can decide what is going to be the performance, what's going to be the sustainability attributes, what's going to be the look and feel, what's going to be the touch. It's all in the yarns. So we have a huge responsibility on the way that we design. Again, it's not just Nilit, it's all our trade that are using raw material and are spinning it, and at the end making yarn for all of us to use. And we also have an influence on how we make it. And later in the presentation, I will show you our new launch, which is actually talking about the way that we manufacture. Not only at our premises, not only in Elite chemical plant, in the polymerization plant, but also upstream, and how we can drive this performance or the way that we manufacture and the impact, the reduced impact that we're doing, how we can convey that to our partners, to our direct customers, to the mills, and then to the brands, and then to the retailers, and at the end to the consumer itself. So actually we know that there's a lot of issues that we need, I would not say to solve, because to solve, we're not in that game. We need to see how we can contribute to reduce that impact. And if you can see here on my left, you can see that there's a lot of disturbances, if it's greenhouse gases, if it's land consumptions, if it's water preservation, if it's hazardous materials, if it's a lot of things. If we do the design correctly or the making of it correctly, we can, I would say, if not to eliminate them, to reduce those impacts of them. And this is a slide, Charles, from my previous presentation 6 months ago. And I think it's very important, at least the picture. We're all thinking about how to solve this problem. But to solve these problems, it's not in our hands entirely. And we need to come with solutions that are applicable today. It's not going to be the ultimate, it's not going to be the ultimate solution at the end, that afterwards we will solve everything. But it's, you know, it's milestones. It's milestones that we can touch and we can reduce to a lot of problems and issues that we have seen in the previous slide, but we can do them today. And when I'm saying we, I don't mean only Nilit. I mean us. All the audience that are here, starting with the influencers, speaking about that, bringing this to awareness, that aside of all the other things, we need to take care of that. It's the retailers, it's the brands, it's the new brands, it's the other players in our trade. And when I'm going into the design, or what we want to design and how we want to, we think of a couple of things. We think, first of all, on longevity, and I will speak in a while about longevity. We're talking about reducing fossil feedstocks. I know it's a topic that was raised in the past, and I said that we're going to have something ready for the next show, and we do have something ready for this show. We actually launched it a couple of days ago, last week, if I remember correctly. It's called By Nature. We're talking about well-being. It's always important. If people are happy with what they wear, they continue to wear it and they don't throw it away. We're talking about, of course, recycling and waste reduction, how to eliminate that, how to lower the emissions. This goes without saying. Water, keeping them clean, but more preserving them. In our field, it doesn't matter if we're using natural fibers such as cotton and others, but also synthetics. We use a lot of water. It's not good. We need to find ways in the way that we produce, that we use less water, because water, we may have it, Europe may have it, but in other places it's becoming quite hard to find. And of course, to provide the downstream. The downstream, I'm talking from my direct customers, the mills, the brands, the retailers, give them cost savings. Actually, when you give them cost savings, it's energy savings. And sustainable savings, which we need to say, okay, we're saving. Let's think what's the impact. Let's raise the awareness of this saving into sustainable impacts that the consumers will know that all of us are doing something for them. We don't need to raise the price for it. In some cases, you know, when it's a new thing and there's new additives and new technology, yes. But if there's a way that we can reduce cost downstream, let's make out of it a story. Let's make out of it a story for the consumer, saying we as an industry are able to reduce our impact. For this, we've generated, I think that you're all familiar with, our Sensil brand. So I will share this video and then I will continue. Sensil is with us for the last 5 years, but only in the last 2 years we did a complete makeover, and we decided that this brand and this name will symbolize the innovative and sustainability approach that Nilit is taking. And the second sentence is the one that is important, and by the way, this is the vision, the way that we see the market, and I do hope that all of us are sharing the same, and I'm just going to read it out loud, to actively shape the future of the textile, sportswear, and fashion industries in a responsible and sustainable way. And I think it's our vision, but I think that most of us, when we're thinking about it, this is what we want to achieve. And I do hope that at the end we will all join this way of thinking and convey this message down the road. In our Sensil portfolio, we have a lot of solutions. As I mentioned before, we don't have one solution for the entire picture that we saw before, but we do know that there's a lot of issues and a lot of problems that we need to tackle. We need to tackle, and we need to give solutions that can be today and tomorrow in the market. And if I'm talking about waste reduction solutions, if I'm talking about ways to reduce LCAs, and LCAs, I'm not just talking about CO2 emissions. We have LCAs on land consumption. We have LCA on water preservation. We need to checkbox all of these LCAs and see how we are reducing these impacts. We're talking about water preservation. I mentioned it before, but there's certain solutions that we can provide downstream that requires less water. And if they require less water, why not to use it? It reduces the flexibility. It reduces the flexibility of enormous colors and patterns, etc. But at the end, it's a balance of what we can do and how we can reduce this kind of impact. And well-being, I mentioned well-being in the beginning, but all of the performance, cooling yarns, antibacterial, antiviral, thermal regulation, moisture management, you're familiar. We have some of them, you have the rest, or you're using the rest. The well-beings are important, are really important for sustainability in the way that we want to show it. When we're thinking and when we're doing these product lines, we are always thinking of the life cycle assessment. I mentioned the obvious ones, which are the CO2, the land, and the water, but there's still a couple of things which are extremely important. Longevity of the apparel, of the fabrics, of the garments that we are all producing. It's extremely important, and again, I'm coming from an industry of nylon 6/6. We know that it's much more tougher, smoother. It has a higher abrasion resistance. It has a lot of things that it looks pretty new even after a lot of washing cycles. But it's important. It's important in everything that we want to put in the market. We know that it will last for a very long time. Again, hazardous materials, just take them out whenever you can, wherever you can. And of course, that whatever we do, we keep the water, especially the water that we drink. And the water that we drink are not just coming from the ground, they're coming from the oceans. So we must make sure that whatever we do not have an impact on them. Longevity, I'm mentioning it even though that it's obvious because we don't talk about it. And when we're talking about sustainability and we're talking about lowering our impact, if we have a longevity garment, fabric that stays with us, we're contributing to waste reduction because it can withstand washes, does not absorb odors, it has a higher abrasion resistance. It has a lot of the features that you can see here on the screen. And with these, we're able to continue and wear them. And when we're introducing a new product, we are always having that in mind. The first thing, we want to test it that the chemical, mechanical properties are the ones that will provide us longevity. Another solution that we brought, it was last year, it was our Sensil BioCare. It's a biodegradable solution. I talked about it for numerous times and I presented it, but I want us to think about two elements. And the two elements are the microplastics in the ocean. And I took from two bulletins that one 2 years ago and one just right now, saying what the microplastics from the synthetic world that we are part of it are contributing. They're affecting the plankton. We know what plankton is, how it's the source of the life in the oceans. And just recently, in blood tests that were done to find microplastics, it was discovered in people like you and me. So we have to understand from where it's coming. Some of it is coming from the air and others, but some of them are coming from the water that we drink, and some of the water are coming from the oceans. So it's an important, I would say, problem that we have to face, a real issue. And for that, we have the BioCare. And the BioCare, the nice thing about it, that we have tested it under a marine environment. And we have showed that after almost 2 years, about 58% of it disappears. So we're not eliminating it entirely, but we are reducing it. And I know that there's also other biodegradable solution out there. So we need not just to say the word biodegradability, we need to mention that we are reducing microplastics. And by the way that we are conveying this message, at the end the consumer will understand the benefit. And if he understood the benefit, then there will be a reaction. He will buy it. He will buy it. There will be more requirement for that. And we will, at the end, be able to achieve the target that we put to reduce the impact. Another solution that is with us for a lot of years is our recycled. And again, recycled, there's a lot of recycles in the market. I can say that from our perspective as a delicate nylon 6/6, it's very hard to use recycled material. I believe some of my competitors will share the same. It's very hard. It's hard to take waste from a third party, recycle it, and use it because the yarns are very delicate. So you have to make sure that there's no impurities, and we can only use our own waste. But at the end, we use it, we recycle it, and we provide it to the market. Water preservation. We can save 24,000 liters on every ton if we are using these kind of solutions. That means that the polymer itself gets the color, and we can have it in different colors. The most is the black and the white and the gray. But these are things that if we can compromise on the final patterns and flexibility of colors, we can bring this impact today. And I can tell you that there's a lot of brands, and if you will go to our booth, you will see also garments that have this, and they look fabulous to my eyes. Also their touch, etc. They're nylon 6/6, but they have a huge impact on water. So these are a couple of things that we have done in the last, I would say, 2 years. Some of them really recently, and the new one, and the one that I want a little bit to elaborate a little bit more, is think of a solution that reduces the fossil feedstocks, has the same look and feel as the regular nylon, same performance of whatever you think about it, available today. You don't need to do any changes, not in my spinning, not in my texturizing, not in the knitting, not in the weaving, not in the downstream finishing. It's the same. You just need to change the material, but you have a certification that in the process of doing it, you're using less fossil. And in this case, in our case, it's coming from a biomass balanced solution. Hey, it's a change in the way that we think. Why it's a change? Because in the past, in all of the performance fibers and yarns, we always added an additive. And you know, when you add an additive, the yields are not that good, the efficiency is not that good. It's very hard to bring it to large masses. But if you're able to tweak the process, have the same polymer from mechanical crystallization, physical, it will be the same. But we know that, and someone is auditing it and certifying it, that in the process of making it, we are using non-fossil feedstock, and we get the certificate, and we can calculate the amount of emissions that we are reducing and transfer it to all the market, to the mills, to the brands, to the retailers, up to the end consumer. I think it's a new approach, and if it will find an audience for that. And I know that also not only us are doing as such. It goes into different, I would say, industries. In the electric industry, in the plastic industry, they're using this kind of approach, saying, okay, we're not doing a bio-based or something that is coming from sugarcane or from soya. We are introducing feedstocks in the existing manufacturing plant. We're measuring the masses of it, and based on the masses of the non-fossil, you're getting your certificate, if you're paying for that, that you have used of that. Again, everything is certified, audited by third parties. And we have here a video. It will be after this slide. But this is repeating what I said just a minute ago. We'll talk about it in a few minutes. Okay, how it works, I describe it, but I'll go over this animation. Actually, waste that we throw at home, kitchen waste. It can come from us, it can come from an industrial restaurant or an industrial facility that does food. They throw it to the garbage. The garbage goes to a landfill. And as we know, it's organic, so what happens? It breaks down. It breaks down into CO2 and into methane. And there's ways today to harvest these gases. So what we actually do, and we do it together with our partner. The partner is BASF. They are actually the ones behind the story and the initiation of the process. So they're able, in their process, to take and harvest the methane, convert it into a biogas, and insert it into an integrated plant. And the integrated plant receives feedstocks, the fossil feedstocks that they need for doing their, if it's an acid, if it's a base, if it's the polymer. But they also can use biogases that are coming from these landfills. And according to the biomass balance approach, that means how much volume we put of non-fossil and how much of fossil, we're able out of the outtake to allocate, certify the exact amounts of how much non-fossil we've used. Of course, you have to pay for that because there's an auditing and this process is costing. And this, we take it as a raw material into our polymerization plant. And at the end, we're able to put it in the yarn. And the polymerization does what it used to do in the last 50 years. Takes an acid, takes a base, makes a salt out of it, and then a polymer. So we have not changed nothing in the way that the crystallization and the chemical reaction becomes, but the source of the materials that we're using in the way that they manufacture it is using much less non-fossil. And we can benefit, the industry can benefit it with these kind of approaches. And again, the approach of this is on a biomass coming from methane, but there's other mass balance solutions that in our industry and again in others that are being put in place. And I believe that we'll see in the next couple of years more and more of the approaches going into this line. I hope that we will have some, hopefully to share in the next performance days, also commercial programs that are already in the stores, because this, we have it today. It's not something that in development, if you remember half a year ago, I said it's cooking, and we have it today ready. I do hope that in half a year from now, we'll be able to come and say, we have it, and the approach of mass balance, biomass balance, is something that people can understand and convey and bring it forward. Regarding the CO2 emissions in this specific case, we're able to save 900 kilograms of CO2 by the way that we are doing it on every 1 ton of nylon 6/6 fabrics. And again, this calculation is audited, so if at the end you need to show what the garment, what the fabric, what the garment LCA is, we can provide you with this number so you can reduce the emissions that you have on your final product. We have for this a special hang tag with a QR code. We want to be transparent as possible. That means that at the end, if it's a mill, if it's a brand, if it's a retailer, if it's a consumer, we'll be able to go into the QR, go to our site, BASF site. It doesn't matter where, but we'll give them the precise information. At the end, we want that the public will believe what we're doing, because at the end, all of us are doing things that we want the public to appreciate and to know that the textile industry isn't changed, and it isn't changed. Just the other day, from last week, we had a couple of press releases on them. I'm not just showing them to show that we're doing public relation, but the importance of awareness. The importance of awareness, and it needs to come from all of us, is to provide the public and provide the industry that we are, that all of us are doing something for this industry, and together, and I mean together, we're actively shaping the future of the textile, sportswear, and fashion industries in a responsible and sustainable way. And I do hope that you're all joining us in this vision. So I'm finished with the presentation. I would be very happy for questions.
Before we take questions, can I ask you to show your appreciation for Sagi? Every time Sagi presents, I learn more stuff. And the good news is that this will be on playback in about 10 days' time, load up to the site. If you were trying to follow this and say, it's actually a stage beyond I understand, watch it a second and a third time. That's what I did to your bioplastic presentation, and I now feel I know what I'm talking about. He says good stuff. I know I need to get better. So we're here. You've got someone who can explain things and think well. Does anyone want to pick his brain? Ask him a question. Here's your opportunity. Now, if you'd rather not do it publicly, I'm going to put Siggy off the stage afterwards. No, stay there for the moment at the end of the session, and you can speak to him on a one-to-one basis.
No, just asking if the product can be labeled as polyamide, normal polyamide, or is there any special labeling of this new by nature product?
Excellent question. At the end, it's polyamide. It's polyamide 6,6. It's the same crystal. It's the same chemical composition. It's the same physical properties. So it's nylon 6,6. It just comes with a certification that part of it was made from non-fossil feedstocks, and therefore there is a certification for that, and there's claims that you can use less fossil, you can harvest methane, and you reduce the emissions of CO2 by 900 kilograms. But at the end, it's the same 6,6 yarn that you're used to receive from us. Polyamide, yeah.
I like that. It makes sense. Would anyone else like to pick on Siggy? Because if you don't, I do. And I ask awkward questions.
Go ahead, Charles.
But no. We've got a volunteer, you see. Saved you from me.
I have a question about scalability. So I don't know, this is just the beginning. It's not in shops yet, but do you have an idea about production for coming years? What will be the volumes?
The volumes will be probably according to the demand. Why? Because today to harvest the methane costs money, so they don't want to do it if there's no demand. So we are triggering the demand. If we are successful in the market, and the market appreciates it, and there is more needs for that, then we will have much more biogas coming from non-fossil resources into it. Again, you're not going to change the polymer itself, and the entire will come from non-fossil. But let's say if we're talking in a year, we do 45,000 tons of regular yarns, we will be able to do a couple of thousand of tons to it, so it's very scalable. But not today, not tomorrow morning. It will be according to demands and forecasts that we'll place into the market in order to grow. But definitely the idea is not to be a niche, is to have a significant impact on the downstream.
So we can take another question, if anyone wants to. But I get to pick on Siggy now. It's something you've overlooked, in my opinion, which is we've all heard of the effects of things like regenerative agriculture, and that is starting to talk about carbon sequestration. But we are the performance market. We need to use polyamides because of the performance quality of them. We are an industry that suffers from the reputation of being so polluting. Apparently, we're the second most polluting industry in the world. We know that's been disproved. We're most probably number 5 or 6. If you are thinking forward, this fiber that you're working with will have the ability to flip the reputation. So rather than polyamides being evil, you're actually doing good for the planet. So I know it's not going to happen next year, but this is the way the thinking is going. And if I turn that into a question, in your opinion, 2 questions. One, how much do people understand about carbon sequestration? And secondly, you've put an awful lot of thought and work into this. How long in the future, how far in the future do you think it will become commonplace or the norm? And they're 2 not easy questions.
Not easy questions, and I will start maybe with a story. In my past, I'm not from the textile industry. I'm from software. I'm from, I would say, we call it high tech or things like that, working with programs, etc. I joined the textile industry just less than 10 years ago. And when I'm meeting with friends, family, I believe that you have the same, and they're asking you, okay, what do you work in? So you're saying, hey, I'm Adidas, I'm whatever. I'm working in the textile industry. And then they come to your question, Charles, and they're telling you, you're the guy that is polluting our planet, and we cannot change it. It's not going to be changed tomorrow, and it's not going to be changed by one product. But the important is that everything that we do, and it doesn't, even if it's a niche, we must convey the message to the audience, to the public, that we're doing the maximum that we can. Not just only think about the look and feel, about the touch, about the performance, about, hey, I have something really unique that knows how to cool and heat and whatever. But we're doing things that at the end, we're changing the industry that we are in a way that it will reduce the impact. It will not flip over. We'll still, at the end, people need to wear garments. And some of them are coming from natural fibers that use land and use water, you know. Some of them are synthetics, such as polyester, polyurethane, and polyamide. And all of them have issues, but we need to first understand these issues and see how we can reduce them. I don't believe it will be one product, but I believe that if we will put all our thoughts of how to make the change in the masses, in the mass production, in the mass product, not in a 100%, not in 50%, but even at 5%, because of the quantity, the impact is going to be, in absolute numbers, going to be big. So I do hope I answered. It's not going to happen tomorrow morning, but if we are all coming out of this presentations with this thinking, I think it's a good step forward.
And the part two was what you ended on. Not tomorrow morning. How far do you think in the future might we get enough critical momentum? You're saying it's still at development stage, you're looking for partners, but when do you think the public are going to understand the importance of it?
Okay, I believe that the, I would say the mass balance and biomass balance, it can be also others, will catch up in the coming years. I do believe, and I can tell you that we are working on it, on recyclability of the final garment that ends its life in the landfill. And there's a lot of issues in it. And we have to remember, when we want to recycle it, we just not just want to reduce the waste, we want to create less impact. So we don't want to invest a lot of energy recycling it. So it's a little bit far away. We are working on it, but I believe that in the next 5 to 7 years, we will be in solutions that will be there, but it will require all of us, and especially my children, that they will not say, hey, I want this specific colors with this specific. They need to be much more humble in what they are looking for, because think about recyclability. You need to have, in synthetics, you need to have a monocomponent, that means a pure 100% nylon that has almost no elastan inside. Otherwise, just to get the elastan, the amount of energy is too much. You have to strip out the dyeing stuff, also a very heavy chemical that. To do it today, it's possible, but it costs, and the amount of impact that we do on the environment is too bad. So this time frame of 5 to 7 years, I believe, will be much more closer. I don't know if we will have it, but this is what we are giving to ourselves.
Well, I'm happy with what he said. It's your opportunity now to pick on him. If not, do approach Siggy afterwards. But can I ask you to show your approval for what he's done this afternoon?
Thank you very much.